Welcome, Maryam.
Thank you so much for having me, and so nice to see everyone.
Hey, Maryam.
Hello, Gary. I'm going to beat you at talking fast. That's my goal. No, that won't be good for anyone.
Maryam, I adore you and have known you for a long time. We've gotten to dance in different places. When you came over to Nextdoor, I was super thrilled because it is a platform that I have had my eye on for 6-7 years. I've always been fascinated with it. Big shout out to John Morgenstern, who adores you and is really hacking on the platform right now. But I do believe that a lot of people on the platform have a really interesting relationship with Nextdoor because they either legitimately don't know it or they're completely infatuated and live on it. So for the group that has less awareness, can you tell us a little bit about the platform?
Yeah, so Nextdoor was really founded by the notion, there was a Charles Blow article in 2010 that talked about how 28% of people didn't know a single one of their neighbors. And so as we'd become more connected, we'd actually become more disconnected. So the whole reason Nextdoor was founded was to actually leverage technology to connect you to those who lived closest to you, right? With the goal of not just connecting you online, but to connecting you offline. And I think you now see a lot of research, right, about the need for us to actually be physically connected to each other. And I think given the pandemic, we all recognize that proximity actually matters. It's how tribes used to be designated, right? And I think we now are living sort of in reverse in the sense that we all are quite connected to those who live closest to us. And that's really what Nextdoor is about. It's about enabling sort of your tribe by geography to be connected. And that means like Nathaniel and Troy, who live down the street from me in Chelsea, the local businesses, Joe's Coffee Shop, the public agencies, the nonprofits, the entire ecosystem that makes your neighborhood vital.
I'm actually curious about this. You know, how familiar were you with the platform before you joined? And then if you were or you weren't, how much value did you get out of it once you got deeper into it or actually started using it for the first time?
Yeah, so I had, it's funny, so I had joined it when I was in Chicago when I was at Hyatt, but really hadn't used it. And then when I got the call about this role, I went on and I recognized that I had somehow signed up when I was in Chicago and had no real memory of it. So it was a brand I'd heard of, but clearly was not close to. And frankly, that I think is the opportunity, which I suppose as a CMO is why you would join an organization like Nextdoor. What happened is I then joined, so we moved to Chelsea 20 years ago, and I'm one of those people who, when we moved in, I joined the Block Association, not just as a member, but as the secretary of the Block Association, which makes my teenagers roll their eyes even to this day. And, you know, I sort of inherently believe, like you, I'm originally from Iran, right? We'd been, we're sort of nomads. We, after the revolution, moved a million times. So for me, the connectivity to my place and sense of place matters. And I also believe that you actually have to care, which actually means getting involved, which would be why I would sign up as the secretary for the Block Association. Chelsea has the longest running Block Association in the history of New York, which is an amazing thing. And so I was by far the youngest person on the Block Association, like on the, you know, on the day-to-day team, but it was amazing because you got to know like the inner workings of your neighborhood. And I think when I joined Nextdoor and started using the platform, I saw a lot of amazing things. But one of the things I saw, because there was sort of this narrative that urban centers like New York really didn't, you know, make friends or didn't need each other, or, you know, whatever the narrative is that people have about New York City. And what we all actually know is that we're a bunch of neighborhoods really connected by geography in New York, right? Those in Chelsea feel differently about the Upper East Side and vice versa. There was a woman who posted into the feed. She said, I'm 50, I'm from Brazil, I'm a producer, and I just want to make some new friends, because we know as we get older, that gets harder to do. Within the week, she had 140 posts. People were telling her about meditation classes, places to go gather. And then literally like 20 of them got together at Lemmy D for coffee. So there is the aspect of getting connected.
Honestly, I'm sorry to interrupt you on this. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it just really hit me. That's why I fell in love with social in 2006. That's 100%. What Twitter and Facebook looked like back then. It doesn't look like that now, but like I made an entire new world.
That's correct. And I think that's really the thing. I think the thing that makes Nextdoor unique is that you don't friend and unfriend people. You don't create your ecosystem. You're literally connected to those who live next to you, who you generally don't know. I mean, yes, you know Nathaniel and Troy down the street, but I don't know everybody in my neighborhood. And so that connective tissue becomes particularly interesting and important. And I think people generally want to get plugged into their neighborhood. That's really the desire. It's not always about new friends. Sometimes, you know, it's about finding somebody to babysit for you, or, you know, somebody said to me today on the phone, oh, I found a gardener, a high school student to come and mow my lawn, right? So there's a utility to the platform, but also there's the ability to get connected around things that you're interested in, which one would imagine your neighborhood would be high on that list.
I think that's right. You know, as you were talking, I was thinking I made all these new friends, but they lived all over the place. Yeah. Like just the sheer value of being in that proximity. Thinking about the audience reading Twitter right now, big shout out to everybody. Use hashtag marketing for the now. When Maryam says incredible things, please quote it. It's been fun watching that. And she'll have plenty more before we wrap up here. What about for small businesses? There's so many people watching right now for small businesses. Again, John Morgenstern and I are hacking for Wine Text and Wine Library on the platform. So we're enjoying that. John, by the way, John has a formal complaint. He wants lower floor pricing on the ad product. So if you can address that. But
tell John, I'll pass that on.
Thank you. What about for small businesses? What should they be thinking about? What are you doing for small businesses, if anything, during this time? Giving you a little bit of a hardball question. Let me know. No
hardball questions here. Listen, small businesses are critical to your neighborhood ecosystem. They're critical to your neighborhood vitality. And frankly, when COVID hit, pretty soon after people offered to help each other and run groceries, they turned to their local businesses, right? Because you actually have a relationship to Joe's Coffee Shop or La Bergamot or whatever your local version of those are. And people wanted to support those local businesses. And we responded by enabling GoFundMe campaigns, enabling them to do takeout menus, to just get connected to those physically closest to them who needed to have information so they knew how to engage and support their local businesses. We rolled out a business model to allow local businesses to post and feed. The thing that's interesting about Nextdoor that is unique is its instant distribution to that neighborhood, right? You don't have to build a following. The following is already there. What we enable you is to immediately plug into that neighborhood, and your neighbors are there and wanting to help you because
remind everybody,
it's not just altruism, right?
That's right. It's practical. Actually.
It's practical. You want those businesses to be there.
It's also self-serving. Like
100%.
Which I like. I actually think selfish is a word that could be thought about differently, because I think when people realize that they need to be selfless to actually achieve their selfishness, it leads to better behavior, believe it or not. It's a very fascinating thing I think about, and I see that dynamic playing out on the platform.
Look, I think that we all know that all those businesses are part of the reason we live in the neighborhoods we live in, right? So it's pretty basic. And I think, by the way, we also then make friends with the people who run those businesses, right? Like your level of happiness goes up the more you're connected to people who you know in the coffee shop, or, you know, whatever the equivalent of the coffee shop is for you. And I think what we're seeing is this ability to get instant distribution for your business to people who actually are closest to you, which for the most part, we're all staying within a close by geography, right? So it actually matters. The other thing I would tell you is we just launched today, Sell for Good, which enables you to actually help in the revitalization of your neighborhood by actually selling the stuff that you're Mary Kondoing because you're home and don't know what to do, so you're getting rid of stuff. You can now actually take the proceeds of that and give it to a local nonprofit. Like in New York, you can give it to New York Cares, right? So I think this ecosystem where you enable people to actually support their neighborhoods, particularly local, which we now know is something that we're all going to be living in for the near term, I think really matters.
Talk to me for the last 5 minutes here about any internal changes, restructurings, pivots during COVID. There's a lot of executives watching that would like to tap into your leaderships or observations. Anything stand out for, you know, you've been in incredibly large organizations in the past during other times in your career. Andrea gave you the big head nod of this incredible career. That means 9/11. That means the the Great Recession. You know, anything from this chapter that you learned or anything interesting to gather from there?
Look, you know, I've done purpose work for 15 some years, right? So this is a topic I know a lot about. And when you take a new job, you never know what it's really going to be like until you get there. What was amazing was to see the organization pivot 3 weeks into my starting to actually live its purpose. The level of innovation of the product team turning products around quickly in real time to meet the needs of our customers, whether it was getting information from the CDC out or, you know, getting gift cards and GoFundMe campaigns enabled for local businesses, was amazing to watch. I think what we've all learned is we can be much more nimble and agile when the need is real. I say to people all the time, it's really about solving needs. It's not about having amazing looking campaigns that win awards, because the need is real and people are suffering. And so we need to be there in meaningful ways, right? And I think that lens has come into full relief, not just at Nextdoor, but I see it in other organizations as well. I think we're also all learning about how we work in new ways, right? We've all been working from home for extended periods of time, like the conversation you were just having. We're learning how to interact on little squares on our computer, like day in and day out. I joke work from home sometimes feels like work 24/7. So I think it really matters to think about how you actually make space for your teams to actually have time to think and do the creative work, which isn't just meetings. And also to take time off, right? Like we all know it's hard to actually take time off when you're not going somewhere. Staycation just means like staying with your computer. So how do you actually enable that? I tell people all the time, I heard you guys comparing notes on TV viewing. I say I've returned to Glee and Grey's Anatomy, and my recent binge watching is Goliath, right? So make sure you give people time to decompress. And so don't just share workloads, share the things that bring you joy, right? And so for me, I was in the media business for a long time. I love good content. So making sure that we actually share things like that, personal things. I mean, I see people say to me all the time, I was on a meeting earlier and the gentleman I was talking to had little political heads behind him. Like you get to see people in a totally different light. Oh. People used to be so polished. And now you're like, wait, you're like a political person because you have little animated heads behind you, right?
Context.
So, context, 100%. Oh, and by the way, please. Sorry, I was just going to say to you, like as a woman, like as a working mom, right? I think one of the things I love seeing is people and the messiness of all of our lives, and that you have to be authentic because there is no varnish that you can put on. I love that because I think like the more we're honest, the better.
Vulnerable, right? I've heard from a lot of employees saying, watching this woman or man who I put on this pedestal as being like a machine, this and that, like screaming at their kid when the wine was tilted over, changed everything. Even, this is a true story, even though it wasn't a nice scene, like even though it was like that person actually getting frustrated with their child, with the wine on the rug, it actually made them like that person a lot more, because the facade, to your point, I mean, like, right, like Justin's coming up next, and like I'm already trying to figure out what those frames are on his spot. I want the content. I think I've always, and you and I have such a great relationship through the years, I've benefited with my comfort of being kind of not polished, and I think it's allowed people to get to know me, whether that's sports or cursing or Jersey or wine, and I think that other people are benefiting from that in this format.
Well, you and I were always good at sharing the mess because we knew that, life is complicated. So now I just love like, oh, you had your kid. Oh my God, let's all wave to the kid on the screen. Let's be honest. We always knew it was complicated, and now people don't have a choice but to share it. And I frankly take that as a silver lining.
I love that as well. It's great to see you again. I wish you nothing but the best. Really.
So nice to see you. Thank you so much for having me. And Andrea, thanks for thinking of me.
Thank you so much, Maryam.